So when you come to seated, really highly recommend elevating the pelvis so that the legs can fall open just a little bit more. The feet can also be in Baddha Konasana with the soles touching. We're going to be doing, we're going to begin with breath practice, and then we're going to do a seated flow, not unlike the ones we've done in a chair. And so get yourself settled here. Make sure the blanket or whatever you're sitting on is not too high, not too low. We're looking for that Goldilocks spot. And let's settle in and notice our breath. Let the jaw be soft. And the eyes can be closed or soft focused as we practice our 5.5 breath cycles. So we count to 5 as we breathe in, pause, and release or exhale for a count of 5, pausing at the bottom before we inhale again. So I'm going to invite you to this practice now. You be responsible for your own count. And we begin with the inhale. And the next time you find yourself on the exhale, just return to your natural breath, to your signature breath. What feels good in your body today? Breath. Let's prepare to move. We're going to be breathing our arms up, and we're going to release to the right for a side bend. Breathe in to bring the arms back up, and to the left for a side bend. This is the exhale. Breathe in to bring the arms up, and then we twist on the exhale to the right. We wheel the arms up and take them across the body to the left side for a twist. We exhale. We come back to center. Sweep the arms behind us, lift the heart, let the hands touch the floor. And on the next out breath, we're going to come forward and scoot our hands past our feet any amount, or to our legs, any amount. And then we're going to float back up. Arms are coming up on the in breath. This time we side bend to the left. Come back up on the inhale. Side bend to the right. Come back up on the inhale. Twist to the left. Pinwheel the arms to the other side. This is the exhale, twisting to the right. Bringing the arms back to center, floating them up and behind with the heart lift. Breathe here. And then we're going to come forward. And then back to center. We're going to switch the cross of the legs now, if the legs are crossed. The arms float up. And we take it to the left first. Inhale to center. Take it to the right. Side bend. Bring it to the center. Twisting to the left. Pinwheel the arms on the inhale and exhale on the right. Back to center, the arms float up and back. Lift the heart. And on the next exhale, come forward. Coming back up. Breathe in. One more time to the right, side bend. Back to center. Side bend to the left. Back to center. Twist to the right. Pinwheel to the left on the inhale. Twist on the exhale. Back to center, sweep the arms up. Float back behind. Lift the heart, breathe in. And on the next exhale, we come forward, reaching and hinging. And then we come back to center. Let's float the legs out. Shake them just a little bit. Boom, 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 boom. And then we're going to come onto our backs with our strap. We're going to take the block and have it nearby. So we're going to do what's called Supta Pavangustasana number 1 and number 2. The idea here is to get into the hamstrings. Many people have very tight hamstrings. So this practice is recommended for daily use for 10 or 20 breath cycles on each side. Can really help lengthen and strengthen the hamstrings. So we want that block somewhere near our hands so we can reach it. We're going to come onto our backs. We pause in constructive rest, just allowing ourselves to settle here and notice how the feet connect to the floor, how the pelvis rests on the floor, the waist, the rib cage, the shoulders, and then the head. We're going to take the strap. We want the strap to be long. So I've noticed I'm going to have to rearrange my strap configuration because I'm set up for a different practice. So bear with me as I organize my life. Here we are. We want the strap to be as long as it can be. We're going to take the strap today and we're going to place it over the ball mound of the foot. The ball mound of the foot is where the toes meet the foot. So it's above the arch, but below the toes. So we're going to take this over the ball mound of the foot. We're going to slide our hands down a little bit. So we want the leg to be straight, but we don't want the knees to be locked. So we're going to take I have the strap over my left foot. I'm holding it with my left hand. I'm going to take my fingers behind my knee, and I'm going to feel if that is tight or if there's any give in it. So I'm going to move my leg away until there's some softness there. It's not all tendony. And so if bringing the leg vertically, we probably have done this before. Bringing the leg vertical right above the hip joint doesn't feel available. We're going to just keep that leg where we can find a little bit of straightness, okay? And now we're going to slide the other leg long. We're going to pretend like we're in mountain pose. So that foot is flexed and the toes are coming back toward the knee. Lift the head up and look to see if the toes are actually pointed toward the ceiling. And we're going to soften here. So we're allowing the body to settle. We're holding on to the straps. Can add a little traction. Now you might notice that the left hip has come a little higher than the right hip. So we're going to shift a little bit to the left, shift a little bit to the right, press the thumb into that crease there, push it down so that the hips come to more of a level. So the right and the left side are more of a level. We've got a flex in the foot. We're here for 10 to 20 breath cycles. So what we're doing is we're helping to lengthen and strengthen the hamstrings. And just keep the breath moving here. And maybe wrapping the hands into the strap can help settle the arms a little bit so the shoulder blades can stay on the floor. Check the jaw. Keep the opposite foot flexed. If it doesn't feel good to have that right leg long, you can always have the foot standing on the mat. So we were diving into the hamstrings here. And maybe there's a little more give that allows the leg to come a little closer to the torso. There's no destination here. We're just looking to engage this part of the body. You may feel it all the way up into the calf muscle. Now we're going to find that block. We're going to bring it next to the hip of the left leg. So we're scooting that right next to it. It can be on the lowest notch. We're going to take this leg and open it. So this is Pavangustasana 2. So the strap's going to come into the left hand. And we're going to allow the leg to open just until we feel that stretch in the inner thigh. Again, the opposite foot can be standing on the mat, depending on what feels good to you. So the inner thigh muscle is called the adductor. They tend to get very short and very tight. Some people call it the fourth hamstring. There's 3 muscles in the hamstring in the back of the leg. Some people call the adductor the fourth. So we're giving it a nice stretch here and strengthening it. We're going to make sure that the right side is resting on the floor. We don't want to turn the right hip up. So we can press a little bit into the thigh or into the hip joint. If the foot is standing, maybe resting in the hip joint. If the leg is long, pressing down into the thigh so that right hip doesn't peel off the floor. When it does that, then we lose the stretch. So we want to keep this stretch here. This is preparing us for downward facing dog. We're going to bring this back to center, slide that other foot up, come back to center, remove the straps, take the block to the other side, and now bend this knee for a nice hug. Maybe rock a little bit right and left. And then we're going to release both legs full length on the mat, toes pointing to the ceiling. And you might notice that the leg we just worked feels like it is longer than the opposite leg. We're just noticing. Bringing both feet to stand on the mat, we come to check in with our constructive rest posture. Notice how the hips, the pelvis rests on the floor now. We're going to switch sides. So we're going to take that strap. We're going to loop it over the ball mound of the foot, above the arch, below the toes. Kind of try to make it in the middle of the strap, and then maybe hold on by wrapping the hands. The opposite foot can extend. Again, peek and make sure that foot is lined up, toes pointing at the ceiling. And now check the engagement of the leg. We want to make sure that the space behind the knee doesn't feel really super tight. We want it to be a little bit soft. You'll also notice one leg can feel very different than the other. And now rock a little to the right. Take the thumb into the hip joint, into where the hip crease, the leg and the torso meet on the right side. Press down so that hip comes more to the right hip is more level with the left. And that could change. For me, that changed the stretch dramatically. So I'm moving my leg just a little further away from my torso. Keep the other leg active. Of course, it can always be standing if that's easier on the body. So this posture, 10 to 20 breaths every day, can really help soften and strengthen the hamstrings. So for those of you out there who I say I have no flexibility in my hamstrings, it becomes a random act of yoga every day to do 10 breaths or 20 breaths on each side. It's only going to take about 4 or 5 minutes to do that. We're going to take that strap now into the right hand. We've got the block now on the right side, and we're going to open the leg to the right side. Pavangustasana 2, Supta Pavangustasana. So we just allow that leg to fall over. Keep that block tucked in next to the hip so you don't go too far. We want to keep this hip from rolling up. We want to keep it on the floor. And so we're stretching here we're stretching the inner thigh muscles. So if we rolled that left hip up, we'd lose the stretch in the inner leg. We're breathing here. Let's slide the other foot up to standing if it's not already there. We're going to bring this leg back up. We're going to remove the strap. Return the foot to the floor. Let's draw it into the heart first. Let's give it a nice hug. And then return it to the floor. Both feet slide long. Both legs are long now. And then we're going to slide them back up to standing, come back to constructive rest posture. Notice the pelvis again, how it's resting on the floor. We're going to roll to one side, or you can rock and roll up depending on what feels good on your body. And we're coming to seated. And then we're going to come around onto all fours for a little cat-cow. So the thing about cat-cow, for most of us, we have a natural curve in our low back, so it's really easy to drop the belly here. Let's see if we can practice cat-cow first off by bringing the hands a little bit forward. Yeah, we're going to do one more thing before we go to hands. We're going to take both fists and we're going to place them between our knees. And that makes sure that our knees are hip width apart. Then we're going to bring our hands just a little bit up front of our shoulders. So our shoulders here, we want the wrinkles in the wrist to be facing toward the top edge of the mat. And we have our fingers wide. We're going to reach through the head to build our cow, coming then into the low back. So then the head lifts naturally instead of the low back just taking the total brunt of the posture. Maybe turn the toes under here. Keep the head long, lengthening so that we can feel between the shoulder blades this stretch. And then the tops of the feet flatten and we begin the curve and we see if we can spread the shoulder blades apart as we bring the head to the heart. We'll do one more of those where we rock forward, lengthening through the head, reaching through the head, finding the space between the shoulder blades, and then we let the belly soften. It doesn't really soften. The muscles are really working here. And then we'll do one more cat where we bring the arch into the upper back and really spread the shoulder blades apart away from each other. We're going to come down into puppy dog now. I'm going to invite you to place the block in front of you. And we're going to walk the hands out. So puppy dog is preparatory for down dog. We walk the hands long in front of us and bring the head to the block. And we soften here and let ourselves really become aware of a softening between the shoulder blades. And then we're going to walk our hands back up. One of the things we want to be able to do with our arms is an external rotation. So if we take our hands and turn them out, the bicep comes forward. When we turn the hands down, the bicep turns back and the tricep comes forward. So when we come into a down dog, we're going to build our down dog from here first. So we want to make sure we have 2 fists width between our knees. That's hip width. We've got big hands. The creases of the wrists are facing the top of the mat. Our hands are a little bit in front of our shoulders. And then we're going to turn the biceps toward the ceiling. I'll show the action with one elbow. So most of us are used to just having the elbow joints point toward each other. We're going to turn that, turn it. It's going to keep the hands and the shoulders happy here to have this action. Now we're going to turn our toes under. And we're slowly going to lift bent knees coming into a down dog. So keep the knees soft here. Maybe go up and down just a little bit. See if we can connect in with the space between the shoulder blades. See if we can let go in that place. And then slowly return, knees to the mat, coming into child's pose. We're going to do an extended child's pose, so we take our hands far in front of us as we bring our forehead to the mat. We want to make sure our forehead rests on something as our hips go toward our heels. So if getting our head to the floor isn't possible, our forehead, bring a block to bear. Or the blankets work. But when we're in this position, tune in to between the shoulder blades. See what's happening there. Then we're going to come back up. We're going to set ourselves up. 2 fists widths between our knees. Wrist creases, wrist wrinkles facing the top of the mat, parallel to the top of the mat. Starfish fingers really wide. And then we turn the elbow joints forward, external rotation. This saves the rotator cuff in this posture. Turning the toes under, we're going to come up into down dog. This time we're going to press the heels a little bit closer to the floor. We're going to have legs as straight as feels comfortable. Maybe lifting the sits bones a little higher. We're breathing. And then we're going to take our knees again and come to the floor, coming into child's pose. So find your way into child's pose. Hips coming down toward the heels any amount. And that depends a lot on the knees. Then we're going to pop back up and we're going to do another down dog. This time we're going to walk the dog. So we take the knees so they're about 2 fist widths apart from each other. We've got our wrists a little bit ahead of the shoulders. They're parallel to the top of the mat. The fingers are wide, and then we turn the elbow creases forward so the bicep turns forward. The toes turn under. We're going to press into down dog. Let the heels sink toward the mat, any amount. And then we're going to bend the right knee. The left hip presses back. Switch sides. Back and forth. And then this time we're going to walk our hands toward our feet. Soft bend in the knee. Shake the head yes and no. Then pressing into the feet, we're going to rise up and come to mountain. It might feel really good. Just circle the wrists. And then in the opposite direction. We're going to get our chair now. So we did dog on the floor. Let's do a little version of it on the chair. So we're going to be facing the seat of the chair. And we're going to want to have, we're going to start with our arms. So we have them shoulder width apart. We're going to take our fists, place them between the knees to make sure that we have 2 fist widths between our knees. Shoulders are going to enjoy this. We have the wrists facing parallel to the back edge of the chair. We rotate the arms from here to the elbow so that the biceps are facing the back of the chair. We're going to walk our feet back. Scooch, scooch, scooch. Lift the sits bones. And then bring the head between the upper arms. When you're here, shake the head yes and no. We're going to be here for about 10 breaths. I invite you to play a little bit, soften the knees, and then maybe straighten the legs a little more, and then soften the knees. Get about 4 more breaths here. Stepping the right foot forward. Leave that left foot where it is, come into a little lunge here. And make it as long as you'd like. I'm scooting the ball mound of my foot back just for a nice stretch in the hip flexor. Check your elbow creases to make sure they're still pointing toward the back of the chair. Step back into down dog. So rearrange your feet as needed to bring that right foot back. Arrange yourself. And you might notice with just that little adjustment in the shoulders, in the elbow crease, that external rotation might be a little easier to be in this posture. And now we're going to step forward with the left foot. Scoot the right foot to an appropriate length for a nice deep lunge. Keep those arms active. Keep that external rotation in the arms. We're going to straighten that front leg, press off with the back foot. We're going to come to mountain, sweeping up, hands to heart center. And we pause here. Release the hands. Come to that external rotation. And now won't you join me on the floor? Let's go to the floor through down dog. You can either use the chair or step forward to the front of the mat, sweep the arms up and fold. Stepping back, come into that down dog. Find the external rotation in the shoulders. Soften between the shoulders. Maybe noticing what's happening now in the back of the legs. And then we slowly release to the mat and come onto our backs into constructive rest posture. Have a block nearby. So we're back in constructive rest. We met this early on in our practice. We're noticing the feet, the pelvis, the waist, rib cage, shoulders, and the back of the head. We're going to bring this into a supported bridge now. So bridge is another posture that really works the hamstrings in the back of the leg. So we're going to come into a supported bridge to give our body a little rest while still lengthening that musculature. So we walk our feet in as close to our glutes as our body says is fine. We're going to press into the inner edges of the feet. That activates the musculature all the way up into the groins, including that fourth hamstring. We're going to slide the block underneath our pelvis, and we're coming into supported bridge. While we're in supported bridge, notice what's happening, not just in the legs, but between the shoulder blades, that tight bit there. Let's see if we can soften with breath here. And let the palms be open toward the ceiling. That's an external rotation. We'll be here for about 10 more breath cycles. And now we're going to come out of this, turn the palms down, walk the feet closer to the glutes, press into the inner edges of the feet as we lift our pelvis to the sky. Slide that block out, and then slowly lower one section of the spine at a time back to the floor. We're coming back into constructive rest posture. And we'll be here for several breath cycles. And then we'll engage our Savasana. So breathe here, notice the weightedness of the feet, how the pelvis rests now, where the waist is in relationship to the floor, the rib cage, the shoulder blades, the arms and hands, the back of the head. And when you're ready, we will engage Shavasana. So maybe you'd like to lengthen the legs out, or maybe you want to stay in constructive rest. You choose. And settle in here for a few minutes. Today's thought is from Rilke. If we surrendered to Earth's intelligence, we could rise up, rooted like trees. Gently, tenderly, bring breath into your body with conscious awareness as it moves to the fingers and the toes. When you're ready, roll to one side. Find your breath there. And then make your way to seated. We open our arms wide. We gather all the blessings that already exist and we draw them in appreciation and gratitude into our hearts. And together we say, Namaste.